Thanks, Barbara. Amanda has a second question. How many years back do you have to keep all of your receipts, and how far back can an audit go?
Oh, I think typically 3 years, although Diane recommended 4 years, and I would concur with that because it's always 3 years after the end of the tax year. And yeah, and anything that involves a capital investment, like a piece of equipment, you want to keep as long as you have that piece of equipment.
Great. And this question might be for you, Barbara, and maybe Craig will have a perspective on it as well. Janice asks, when you're inventory or breeding animals, are there also costs as well because are they, the animals, also costs as well because they don't stop eating? She's a little bit confused and she wants to know if like the pregnant ewes are an inventory or a cost, or are they both?
Okay, if you buy a pregnant ewe and your business is lambs, then that ewe is part of your herd, and that is a capital expense. That goes on your balance sheet. She's an investment, although the cost of feeding her and breeding her are expenses. And the cost associated with lambing, your vet bills, all of those are all expenses. And then when she gets old and isn't breeding anymore, you take her out of the herd, and I don't think they depreciate animals. But yeah, if let's say 1 year you retired a lot of your herd, then yeah, that is going to affect possibly your capital gains, and we're going to talk about capital gains next time. So I'm going to equate that ewe to a piece of equipment. They both go on the balance sheet, and if you depreciated out the piece of equipment, then when you sell it, you have capital gains tax to pay on it if you if you get cash out of something that's been depreciated out. But your animals, I honestly don't know if they get depreciated, but I bet Ken Hart knows, and he'll be here next time.
Okay, great. Do you have anything to add, Craig?
No, that covers pretty well. And I was trying to remember on our taxes. I think it depends on the expense of the animal, whether or not it's depreciated. They can be I was trying to think. I think some of ours were depreciated. We did put them on a depreciation schedule, but I think it depends somewhat on the expense.
And so when you say that, if you know, let's say you have a big flock of laying hens and that they're only going to be able to lay for 2 years, so you know that you have 2 years of productivity of them, could they depreciate because you know when they're going to expire? Because your eggs would be your actual product. They would be an investment to get that product?
My guess is that I would depreciate them over 2 years so that you have half of the cost of the purchase in year 1 of production, and you have the other half in year 2 of production.
Yeah, that would make sense. You know, the life length of time that they would be essentially like you'd be looking like Barbara said, a piece of equipment, which would, I mean, it's not, but it's just the useful life of the hen in that sense. So 2 years, then you would say that value of the hen would be, the cost of that hen would be split over essentially 2 years.
Okay, great, thank you. So our final piece is actually a comment from Ken Hart, who's been participating on the student side of the webinar tonight. And this comment is for Diane. He said, a well-executed paper-based record-keeping system is much better than a computer program system that just sits on the shelf or just functions functions as a fancy electronic check register.
Well, thanks, Ken. That makes me feel a lot better. And absolutely, you know, all that matters is that you get it written down in whatever way you can do that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I want to thank you all for your presentations tonight, and to let all of our participants know that these slides are on the course website under week 3 as a handout. There was so much content that handout 1 covers both of Diane's presentations and Craig's, and handout 2 covers all of Barbara's presentation. And one thing that I'll do to make sure that we're answering your questions around inventory and different costs is I can send the chat log or the question log from tonight to next week's presenters, and that will give them an opportunity to make sure that they're able to cover your questions between this webinar and the next webinar. So next week is week 4. As usual, there's going to be a survey about tonight's webinar. Please complete that. We do look at them every week. The recorded webinar will be posted on the course website tomorrow, and you can go back and look at portions of it or all of it. So you have several assignments of doing gross profit analysis for 2 to 3 enterprises, and then looking at which of those enterprises is most profitable, so that you'll get to play with your numbers and some of the ideas tonight, and then also developing an enterprise budget. On the course website, there are many samples of enterprise budgets and many forms that you can fill in. And so there's one for specialty food products. There's also enterprise budgets for various types of livestock, and then the crop enterprise budget fillable spreadsheet is on the CD that came with your business handbook. So on Friday, the week 4 readings and assignments will be posted, and you'll receive the registration for next week's webinar, which will be on financial planning and analysis. Thank you very much to our presenters and our participants, and have a great night.